Goldman Sachs was founded in 1869. They have over 45,000 employees worldwide, and in 2023, they did $46 billion in revenue. They are an industry leader, and getting hired there is incredibly competitive, but it is about to be a lot less competitive for you. Because in today's video, I'm actually going to give you interview questions they ask in their process, and I'm going to teach you from a recruiter's perspective exactly what you need to say to nail your interview. Now, this is video one of a 4-part series on how to get hired at Goldman Sachs. So please watch to the very end of this video, and I will tee up the next one on the screen. All right, with that being said, let's get started. Now, the first question they're going to ask you is walk me through your resume. This is a standard introduction question. Tons of companies ask it. And the important thing you want to do here is you want to make sure that you go in chronological order. So start where you started. You can start with your education, move into your early experience, and move through quickly. It's important to include every single stop. It's important to be succinct when you're talking about what you did at each spot, not to take too much time at the earlier things, the earlier stops in your resume. And as you get closer to current day, then you want to start talking a little bit more in depth about what you're doing and the impact you're making in your role. And then segue that at the very end of answering this question into why it has positioned you to be a good fit for this role now. And if you can do that, you'll answer the question great. Now, the next question is, what does your chosen division do? So whatever division, whatever group, whatever position you're applying for, they're basically going to ask you, what does it do? Now, this is a very common thing that recruiters do because they want to know, are you informed? Did you do research? Did you just apply to a ton of different positions and this is just one of the many you're interviewing for, but you don't actually put any stock in it? So it's important here just to have a basis understanding of what the company does and what your specific division does. You don't have to, put together a dissertation on this. This is a quick 20-second check the box. Yeah, I understand what the division does that I'm applying for and understand what my role would be and how it would contribute to that. And if you can do that, you'll do great. It's a very simple, succinct, this is what they do. Don't overthink it. Just give them a brief synopsis of what the division does. The next question is, tell us about your proudest achievement and why is this achievement important to you? This is an incredibly common recruiting question. And recruiters ask this question because we want to know, what is the most impressive thing that's happened to you? And it's not just about, what you share. I mean, clearly that's important, right? It needs to be something big. It needs to be something that's significant. It should be something that when a person hears it, that goes, oh, wow, that's the type of thing we would like them to accomplish here, right? And an ideal example would have that. But they also want to make sure you're able to articulate it, right? So it's something that you can think of quickly. It's a significant achievement, and you're able to walk them through the impact and why it was so important to you. The key to answering this is just being prepared, right? Knowing what example you're going to give them, and maybe practice talking through it. Like practice giving this example prior to going into your interview. Now make sure you still sound authentic when you're talking to them. You don't want to sound overly rehearsed, but make sure you're including all the important details, and then make sure you finish the summary with why it was important to you and why you would consider it to be the most significant career accomplishment. It can't be something small. It can't be something that, people would brush aside. It's not an achievement. It should be something that's clearly important to you. It was a big success, and you should be able to tell why. The next question is, how would your most recent leader describe you? And this is clearly an opportunity just to talk about why you're a good fit for the role, right? When you think about the characteristics that would make someone succeed in this role, well, that's how your manager would describe you, right? They're not going to call your manager when the interview's done and go, hey, how would you describe Ben? Was he A, B, and C? They're not going to do that, right? This is something where you have an opportunity to align yourself with the role by talking about the different skills, behaviors, and traits that would make someone successful in this role, and giving you the opportunity to broadcast that you embody those traits. So that's what you want to do when you get asked this question. Now, if you really want to nail your interview, one of the things that I would recommend you do is go down in the description box. That first link, that is a link to my full interview prep guide. And it's a guide I put together that teaches you everything you need to do to nail every interview you have for the rest of your life. It has instructional videos. It has templates to help you create perfect answers to different questions you will be asked in a variety of interviews. And it also has messages that you can send to interact and correspond with hiring managers, recruiters, and HR people to move you through the process. And if you use the code GOLD for a limited time, you will get 25% off. The next question is, describe your ideal working environment. Now, one of their core operating principles is teamwork. Okay, so if you can see here, these are their core operating principles. So you might want to incorporate some of these into your answer. I like using teamwork. So when you're asked this question, your answer might sound something like this. That's a really good question. And I've been, in my career so far in a couple of environments, and what I've really enjoyed is when I'm working as part of a high-performing team where we can motivate each other to be the best versions of ourselves, and we can have that collaboration that brings the best out of each other. Those are the things that have really driven me in the past and allowed me to reach the highest heights of success. Something like that. That's a good example, but you're alluding to one of their values, one of the things that's an operating principle that they hold dear, and you're also describing that in your answer. That's a great way to not only give a good answer to this question, but also align yourself with something that clearly matters to them. This next question is, what are you looking for in this position? It's really important here that you give an answer that aligns with what you will be afforded in this role, right? If you're describing something that isn't in the role, then you're messing it up, right? If you're interviewing for an accounting role, and your answer here is, well, I want to do a lot of public speaking. I want to get out and I want to shake hands with people and I want to teach. Like, that's not accounting, right? If you're interviewing for a sales role and, you say, well, what I'd like to do is really just, I'd like to have a lot of time where I'm doing solo work, where I'm not really interacting with people, but I can really focus on getting down to business. That's also not what this is about, right? You need to be connecting with people. You need to be going out. You need to be selling, etc. So make sure when you talk about this, it's positive, right? You don't want to negatively talk about any of your past employers. You don't want to say, well, in past roles, I wasn't able to do this, so I'd hope to do that, right? You want to avoid any negativity. You want to be positive here and energetic, enthusiastic, talking about things you're excited about that are in line with the position responsibilities. And if you can do that, it should be easy. Now, I can't give you an exact answer because every position is going to vary, but familiarize yourself with the job description and practice talking about different things you'll get to experience in this role that are growth-oriented, positive, and avoiding all negativity when comparing to past employers. You want to avoid doing that. Now, this is a question I found online in a bunch of different websites, and it's kind of a weird puzzle technical question, but the question is, if you're looking at a clock, and the time is 9:45, what is the angle between the hour and the minute hands? The answer is 22.5. That's not me doing it, that's me Googling it and finding the answer. But that's one of those things that you might find they ask you in there. It's kind of a tricky problem solving, thinking type interview question. It was the only one I found in my research, but apparently a handful of people have been asked this asked this question. So if you do that, this question, the answer is 22.5. Feel free to Google it online and confirm, just in case you're like, Ben knows interviewing, but does he know math? So that's the answer. If you get that question, there you go. This next question is, if you were given a new project that you were unfamiliar with, what would be your strategy to kickstart it? This is a great question. And what they're looking for here is they just want you to articulate how you would go about approaching this situation. And first things first, to me, it's information gathering, right? The first thing you should be doing is trying to understand, okay, here's a project. There's bits of this that I'm not familiar with. I don't understand it. So I'm going to seek out expertise to inform myself so I can start from a place of being informed and take the right initial steps, right? Because if you start a project, you start doing it wrong, you can get off track pretty fast, and that's going to snowball. So what you want to do is just basically lay out your strategy here. If you're interviewing with a role where they're going to ask you this question, my assumption is you probably have your own approach to this, but make sure you're detailed here. Make sure you reference, this is something that I've had to do in the past, and I actually kind of enjoy this because it pushes me out of my comfort zone. So the first thing I do is I go and I information gather and I talk to people who are informed and can help guide me as I begin my strategy to execute the blah, 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 right? And then from there, lay out your specific strategy that you have. Remember to be concise. No question should take you longer than 2.5 minutes to answer in an interview, unless they probe for more information. Most of them should be able to be answered within 60 to 120 seconds. But just show them your outline of how you approach that and make sure when they're listening, they feel that you are comfortable in this type of situation and it's something you've done before. And if you have an example you can reference, even better. Now, the next type of question you're going to need to answer when you're interviewing with Goldman Sachs are behavioral interview questions. They're some of the more complicated and common questions that they're going to ask in your interview process. So I made this video right here. This is the second video in the series. It is killer. I'm done here. I'll see you over there.